He wants to live forever. He didn't want to live longer. He wants to live forever.
You need a crazy motherfucker to even endeavor that to start.
If you want to be an entrepreneur, then you need to be the type of person who's going to get punched in the face every single day, all day, and just be like, come on, I like it.
Everybody goes through fucking shit, and everybody has the dark tunnel, and everybody, just being a human qualifies you for that. 99%, I don't know, maybe 95%, whatever, but a vast majority of the people walking around on two legs are not even thinking in that, like they don't understand how much of a loop that they're in, how much of a addicted cycle of thoughts and fucking systems that we're all born into, and they don't even have enough awareness to even acknowledge, like, yes, I am. You know what I mean?
It's uncomfortable.
You gotta
scary.
Look at the man in the mirror deeply, without any blinders, without no sunglasses, without none of that. And you got to look him directly in the eye. But it ain't all fucking roses, baby.
What's going on, man? What are you doing?
Fucking, same old.
Same old shit?
Same old shit. Maybe not. Maybe some new shit.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Dude, we just got a cold spell down here in Florida. It's been so warm, and now it's like down to like, this morning was like 38, 40 degrees.
Really? That's cold for over there.
Well, I'm in North Florida, so it's not like I'm in Miami. Miami's probably 80, so it's different,
It's cold as fuck here. It's like it's in the 20s.
See, I think we're getting that cold front. Like, it's pushing all the way down.
It's cold as shit here, yeah.
Dude, I made a commitment to myself for the past like 20-something years to spend January, February, March, like in somewhere warm. I'm really hoping and planning to be in somewhere like Thailand next year. Just be like,
okay.
Okay.
Have you ever been there? I've never been there.
No, Asia's my next. That's
right.
it. That's where I'm going next. I'm gonna live in Tokyo, and I'm gonna hang out. I might go in fall and just stay all the way through in Thailand or Vietnam or somewhere. I don't know.
Cool.
We'll see. I mean, never know, dude.
Never know.
So, finishing up last chapter of the book, the Zen Protocol, and my last this last chapter is on sleep. And so I started watching the documentary Don't Die on Netflix. Have you seen it?
Is that the Brian Johnson one?
Yes.
Yep,
yes.
I saw it.
You saw it?
I think so.
I just started watching it, man. It's really, really,
it's him and
really,
his kid, and it shows him and his kid, and then the assistant. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
And the assistant, and he's doing the, all the protocol. And you know what it made me think about? It made me, because, the dude's a psychopath, right? And
without a doubt.
Which is cool, but he's a psychopath. Yeah. And he wants to live forever. He didn't want to live longer. He wants to live forever. And what it made me really reflect upon was his ability to be completely, disciplined mentally with what he's doing, right? At this level, the protocol and the routine and the things that he's doing are monumental. Like he wakes up in the morning
and he goes like to like get like IV drawn, like, shit like that.
And he starts his morning, the moment he wakes up, he talks about planning for, and everything is geared towards going to sleep that night.
It's wild.
Everything is geared toward, not, I'm going to go hang out with this person. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go, or I'm going to go do jujitsu. No, I'm getting ready to go to sleep.
The way he communicates, because he's definitely a psychopath. There's no argument there. He's crazy. But the way he communicates the mission, I find pretty interesting. Like,
yes,
he communicates the mission in a way of, I've been fortunate enough to make the money that I've made, and I'm going to take this money and I'm going to go try and see what's possible. I know you guys can't do what I'm doing. I know most people can't do it, but I'm going to invest to see what's possible because I believe that, we can expand upon this and technology can help us, solve this problem. And I think that that's like, you need a crazy motherfucker to even endeavor that to start.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't seem like he's taking it on from like a vanity perspective. It doesn't seem like he's taking it on from the perspective of ego so much. I mean, there's a little bit in there for sure, but it seems as though he's really like trying to be an explorer. He's endeavoring to see if he could influence, what human lifespan's all about. And I think that like everything else we've ever done, somebody's got to try to pave the way forward to see what will happen.
Yeah. And I wrote that in the book where I'm like, I remember when I first heard about him doing the plasma exchange with his son, where they're changing blood and all that shit so he can live longer. It was like, my mind's reaction was, what a kook. But then as I dove into it, I started coming around to what you're saying, where you're like, no, this is legit. Like,
it seems like he's driven by something. He's driven by something that's beyond just clout and fame and
he's an explorer.
Money.
He's like, I want to see what the frontiers of longevity and health span, what they are. And I agree with that. I think that overrides
feels like that.
Anything in that, his ego that he's getting out of it. And so I was
Agreed.
like, I have to respect him. And it was kind of cool to come at it like where I was like, what a kook, to being like, okay, but yeah, he's a little weird. He's a little kooky, but he's really, what he's doing is very cool and very admirable, So, but what I was thinking about, what really hit me, Jesse, was that, when you look at someone who has this kind of like discipline, I think it's important, first of all, to understand that sometimes people have innate programming from whether it's, their upbringing, or for him, like maybe even religious trauma or some type of trauma that pushes them to the point where they're so driven and focused that it's not about discipline, right?
It's like obsessive, almost like manic behavior.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Where you look at I think there have been some psychological studies that have shown that, that a lot of CEOs share traits with like sociopaths.
I read this book called The Hypomanic Edge.
Okay.
And it's all about that. It's all about how CEOs, entrepreneurs, creative people, obviously, like, so there's bipolar disorder, there's manic depression. And then there's like what they call hypomanic, which is like, bipolar light. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's not full blown clinical, but like you put forth a lot of the similarities of the manic type behavior, but it's not as like debilitating and like they interviewed all of these people from like, modern people, and then went through like biographical stuff like Andrew Jackson and like, different
like
people
historical, like different personalities. Huh?
Yeah. And just kind of covered like this checklist of these types of behaviors. And it was like, drinking issues and substance abuse and sexual issues and like the behaviors. And it was like, out of 100 CEOs and entrepreneurs that they interviewed, like 98 of them like experienced at least like 75% of the traits on the checklist. And yeah, it was called the hypomanic edge. And it was very, very, very interesting about how not full blown bipolar, but like in that vicinity, in that neighborhood, the same type of attributes are there.
That's so fascinating, man. I read this really cool fictional book called ArcDX, and it was by an author, Steve Erickson. Really, really, really something that it's a book that very few people have read, but really cool. I love his writing. And it was about Thomas Jefferson and how Thomas Jefferson, which is, he was like such a pioneer for
Yeah,
freedom.
I said Andrew Jackson. It was Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, did they talk about how, he was fighting, he was over in Paris during the Enlightenment, and was really pushing for freedom for all and all this. And at the same time, he had a slave, right? He had slaves, and one of his slaves was his like mistress, concubine, whatever it's, and it was like, there was this like tension between, this contradiction between, you have this very, very dark side that enables you to push for very, very, was JFK any different?
Yeah.
Was Bill Clinton any different?
Yep.
Right? Was Arnold Schwarzenegger any different? Tiger Woods? You look at, there's like, you have this thing, John Jones, MMA, it's like, you have this thing that pushes you to go as an explorer, whatever it is, to go so far beyond this belief in self, this obsession, and that obsession creates in the people that I've been around, entrepreneurs and really uber successful people, they're almost like erratic, and just like the mood swings are so pronounced.
And I think it's all fueled by some sort of a trauma, like that,
for sure.
It's all fueled by that. It's like channeled like in this hyper focused way, but it's all coming from, problematic,
Kurt Cobain
sources.
Vincent Van Gogh cutting off his ear. It's everyone. Like,
and and all of us fucking are walking around the street. You know what I mean? Like, in different levels. But I think it's more pronounced in the type of person who is, I don't know what you want to call it.
So far, like Brian Johnson, where you're pushing so far.
Yes.
And the reason that I was really attracted to this topic and watching Brian Johnson's story was not just the health span. It made me reflect on, okay, so many people in society, right? In our society, they want to be uber successful. And if you don't have this trauma that has wired you, or genetics and trauma, environment, nature, nurture, whatever the chemical makeup is of the personality, if you don't have that, how do you get the type of focus that it's going to take, and the type of discipline? It's really focus, obsessive focus. How do you harness that without being a sociopath or a psychopath? How do you do that?
I don't think you can. I mean, like, not like black and white. I don't think you can, but I think that if you go and you interview most of these people, and even just, regular people who are successful and driven and obsessed, I think it usually comes from problematic, sources. I think like, if you're a balanced individual and you are, whatever that means, you know what I mean? But if you're someone who is, doesn't have as much traumatic experience in your life, doesn't have as much, and I think you probably aren't pulled in that direction. I don't think that you
to push through. Well, I was listening to, I think I read a quote. It was basically, if you want to be an entrepreneur, then you need to be the type of person who's going to get punched in the face every single day, all day, and just be like, come on, I like it. I want you to punch me in the face. And so, because you're going to get told no again and again and again and again and again. And do you have the ability to remain enthusiastic and just be like, yeah, let's go, let's go, let's go. That's my question, is can you nurture this? Can you set up a system in which because there's the competing thing of, well, I also want to be happy. I don't want to be successful and be unhappy. To me, the idea that sounds miserable. And for me, this quest has been like can I just become the happiest person in the world, you know?
And be successful.
And be successful. Yeah. Can you do it?
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe on the back end you can, but I think like, you know, like the experience that you've gone through, you know, some of the things that I'm beginning to work through. But I think like you don't get to this place of understanding and enlightenment, if you will, if you didn't start out in the dark tunnel.
Yeah.
Like,
But what if the dark tunnel that you were in did not wire you, although it was darkness, it didn't wire you for success? Because a lot of people, you know, I think the human condition is one of a dark tunnel to where I don't think very many people through nurture and nature are just happy. I think to me, it's a journey. It's like, the number, of course, there are some people, they're very rare, you know, that are just balanced and just happy,
but
and just,
there's not too many of them.
Not too many. And maybe those people, I'm only like projecting because of my minimal involvement in their day-to-day life.
Sure.
I'm just projecting it onto them, and they're not like that. And they're weeping and, you know, cowering under the covers every night. I don't know.
But I think what you're saying in regards to like, there definitely is a personality style associated with high performers, entrepreneurs, and you know, both sides of the ledger are pretty similar in that group of people. And I you know, especially like in business, I've known so many people that have tried to like be in business for themselves, be entrepreneurs, and have epically failed. And mostly because of the inability to deal with the emotional ride. And I think that like, I don't know, like, but then like you could like, you know, if we're really peeling this back, I agree also with what you said about how everybody goes through fucking shit and everybody has the dark tunnel, and everybody, you know, just being a human qualifies you for that. But I don't know, like, is it nature? Is it nurture? Is it both? Is there even such thing as, you know, either one of those things? I don't know.
Well, for me, I mean, this is ultimately right here, like what we're talking about is the reason to go through this, right? It's like, the things that I want in life, I want to be healthy. I want to be healthy as long as I can. I want to have a really long health span. I want to travel. Those are the things. I want to be ripped. I want to be, you know, in great shape. Do I need to, I think the question is, and this is a major question of the transformative whatever journey is, can I do it? Do I have to be a psycho and make myself miserable? Or will I be better off? Is there a better fuel for the engine? Can I use the fuel of happiness, convert that, you know, that combustion of that engine from trauma and misery and erratic behavior and obsession? Can I convert that to just being like, I'm just happy, you know?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
I've thought about this a lot in terms of like the dynamic between the Zen state and the being at peace and being in the present moment and at peace with yourself. And then the dynamic between that and then the life of trying to achieve and trying to make things happen, and how they don't sit side by side very well, because like you in order to make things happen, you have to create efforts and you have to create, you know, so it's like, but I guess I don't know, maybe it's possible. I feel like you're fucking relatively close to it. You know what I mean? I you know, like, I feel like you're at least on the trajectory to move in that direction. I think I have a ways to go. I still think I am deeply wound up in the, well, you know, it's funny. The other day you were talking about the Tao, And I was watching some videos on the Tao, and I was watching some videos of Alan Watts, and Alan Watts was talking about Zen and said something really cool about not forcing things and how Zen is the only like philosophy / religion or anything in that realm that doesn't rely on words, symbols, or letters. And it just is. And like, in context of this conversation, it's like, theoretically, you could manifest anything in your life if you have the ability to focus on it, but then not completely attach yourself to the outcome. But if you keep the focus, but I mean, that's like so hard to do. That's so hard to do.
So
love Alan Watts, by the way.
I know he's amazing. He's amazing. And that
so cool.
With the Tao, you know, as the Tao Te Ching, and it talks about the Tao, is that, you know, it's indescribable. There are no words to describe it. And it's that feeling, and the more balanced, the idea is that the more balanced we can become, the more calm that we can become, the more we're able to like float in the energy, the current of the Tao, where we're not forcing things and we're able to just manifest things. And I think I truly, truly, truly believe this, man. And this is not so, I'm very careful in things that I advocate, and I tell people, yes, take this, don't do this, whatever. You know, I'm a big believer in meditation. And I'm going to tell you, man, I'm becoming a very, very big believer in the Tao and the ability to just manifest whatever you want. But that comes the idea, and I'm sure Alan Watts was talking about this. You have to do the work and center yourself and bring yourself to that place. There's that self-mastery component of being calm, of being able to connect to it. Because when we're like a pendulum, I'm sure I gave this metaphor before, you know, the Tao runs straight through the middle. And when we're like a pendulum swinging erratically, we spend so little time in the center that we don't catch the energy of the Tao.
Well,
it's when we feel.
Self-mastery, I think, is the key component. I think self-mastery is like, if that is what is the focus and that is what you're attempting to do, then I think financial success, you know, health, all of these other things, I think they come along with it. So as however inclined you are to whatever those things are. But I think the self-mastery piece, that's it. That's the only thing that matters, because 99%, I mean, I don't know, maybe 95%, whatever, but a vast majority of the people walking around on two legs are not even thinking in that, like, they don't understand how much of a loop that they're in, how much of a addicted cycle of thoughts and fucking systems that we're all born into, and they don't even have enough awareness to even acknowledge, like, yes, I am. You know what I mean? So I think, like, if self-mastery is always the North Star, I think that is the way to go about it, I think. I don't know.
I tend to agree. And I think, for me, at least, that is my North Star. It's not just, it's not health span. It's not, you know, living forever. It's not financial success. It's not out of all that. My North Star is, for me, trying to get to that point. And I think for myself, the gauge of where I am is how happy am I? That's it. It's like, how happy and content and at peace am I? Because everything else flows from that. And I think when I have that, I'm less erratic. I'm in the center. The pendulum is stopped and the Tao is running right through the center, and the pendulum is catching most of the energy. everything start to manifest, synchronicities, and my efforts, just things just come about, you know?
But I have a question. This is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've got relationships and friendships with some real, serious players in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been around, high level of performance and success. In the context of what we're talking about, would you say a lot of those people exhibit self-mastery, or do you think it's something different?
No. They're
And
obsessive, erratic. Some,
some.
and some work on it and recognize that this is something that they really meet, that they're always striving to, doing therapy, doing really focusing on their wellness and all that, and having an understanding that they at least see the blind spots. But I think that's kind of like where I'm going with that, is I think the problem with our society is that we are so twisted in that people look at the end result and they want to extrapolate and say, oh, this person must have it all together.
Yeah. No.
Right? When you see some of the richest people in the world act like psychopaths, Elon Musk.
Well, just look at celebrities.
Psychopath.
Without a doubt. Look at celebrities. And look at
erratic psychopaths.
Totally. Just so many people that are in that realm. Like, you always hear stories about them cracking up, them fucking freaking out, drugs, whatever it is. Like, because it's not, it's not the answer. While like it's obviously not the answer for, almost everything.
I think that's where I'm kind of landing on this, and where I'm really getting at too, is that if you aren't born a psychopath, however you're born, and whatever your nature, nurture, and all that, if you don't have this psychopath gene, this sociopath gene, whatever you want to call it, that is driving you towards obsessively
success,
towards your goal, whatever, to where you can't like do anything else, and you're difficult to be, whatever. If you don't have that, then you need to figure out another route. And you don't have the option. There's no ability to make yourself into a psychopath. You know what I mean? The only other option is to say, in my opinion, is to say, all right, I have to go about achieving what I want to achieve the healthy way. Because I can't, what are you going to do? Start smoking meth? You know what I mean? What are you going to do to become an obsessive lunatic? It's not going to happen. So if you're not that person, and if you're questioning whether you're that person or not, then you're not that person.
Yeah, no. When you eventually you hit a certain place in your life and you understand.
If you're the person who is like, I'm having trouble staying on a program, or I'm having trouble, whatever it is, like Brian Johnson. Okay, Brian Johnson's a perfect example, right? Because he has this, like, I'm waking up at whatever, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., whatever. I've gotten 8.3 hours sleep. I'm doing blah, 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 blah. And my entire day, and I don't even think twice about it. If you have trouble staying on a program, then you don't have that, because he's not struggling to adhere to this schedule.
No.
Right? That's not it. So if you're the person, that's kind of like where like I said, that's where I'm landing on it, is like, if you don't have that, you don't have it. So you got to figure out another way up the mountain. And for me, the other way of the mountain are the things that we talk about. It's getting into your psyche, because your psyche's not programmed that way. So if your psyche's not programmed that way, then you need to reprogram your psyche in such a way that you could still achieve those results. And my contention is that the secret to doing that is unlocking happiness. Because if you get to the point that you become a master of the art and science of happiness in your own life, then you can unlock everything else that can be your fuel. Then you don't have these blockages. Because if you're the psyche is either built in a way that's propelling you towards those things, and oftentimes, being the sociopath like we're talking about, or it's throwing up blockages at you. And so you have to master your psyche, which means getting in there, clearing these things out, then learning to become so centered and content and joyous that the cow runs right through you and just sweeps you for all the way up the mountain towards your goal. That's what Alan Watts is talking about with the Tao.
And I like what you talk about often is the turning inward. You know what I mean? Like, is the constant reframing of all of the things that make you upset, all of the things that trigger you, whatever fucking words you want to use that create strife. If you begin to look at them through the lens of you, not, who's doing it to you or what's doing it to you, or, why am I feeling this way that I'm feeling? What's going on in me that this thing that this person said made me upset? Or like, this thing that happened between me and, my spouse or my partner or my whatever, like, why did that? And like thinking about it through the lens of like that, I feel like is a very helpful technique, because
Constantly turning
it inward.
Yeah.
Because it's what's so crazy about it all is that, like, and I'm sure you feel like this too. I mean, because, we've been talking about this shit for a while, and it's so much of it so obvious, but it's also so difficult to talk about because the words that you use and the associations with those words, and like hippy dippy fucking people who are like, completely not rooted in reality. It's like so simple and so esoteric at the same time. But how do we keep finding practical ways that are not like spiritual mumbo jumbo, practical ways of like living a better existence, being more present, being more aware of the things that you've gone through in your life that are creating problems for you, and not letting them become these gigantic problems before they have to, and being able to see them earlier. I mean, I think what's great is that like people are talking about this in a way that they never did before. I mean, a generation ago, my parents and your parents, never had conversations with you about how their lives have impacted the way that they parented us and so on and so forth. And like, nobody was talking about any of this stuff. But I think it's really important to keep drilling it down to like practical, simple things that like you can do and think about to just kind of stop and like pull yourself out of the game that's being played that we have no control over.
I love that. I think that's for, as a society, that's the number one thing we need to do is destigmatize this idea of investigating the psyche is in some way this weird thing. For me, all of this is science. It's all science. Yeah. It's all science. Meditation is science.
It is something substantial and real, and it's a factor in the way, because why do you think what you think? If you really start to go down that path, you cannot avoid all of the historical context and the social context and the societal and this and that. And so you don't fucking think what you think because you think it. No chance. You've never even, most people have never even truly explored that concept in and of itself. But like, if as a species, we can push ourselves to continue to explore that concept, I feel like that's it. That's the next, evolution on a species level, I think.
And, I mean, if you think about it, we value in our society, we value success, right? Well, success is a result of actions taken, and it's like a stew, right? You throw all these things in there and then you get success at the end. So much of a part of success revolves around the choices that you make and in the focus that you have And if you can't focus and you can't take those steps that are necessary for success, then you're not going to get the result. And to me, that's all science. It's like you're reverse engineering, you're figuring out what's going on with my psyche. Like I look at my body as a science experiment. Okay. How much do I need to work out? Okay. I was religious about figuring out, okay, I'm not just going to, because I used to go in the gym and work out for 2.5 hours and do what everybody else did and all that. And finally I was like, I need to take control of this science experiment and figure out how much workout do I need to get? What kind of a workout do I need to do? And embarked on that for a year or 2 years and came upon, wait a minute, man, I'm working out way too much. I need to work out for 10, 15 minutes.
What's the minimum effective dose?
That's right. The minimum, and that's science. Why? I can back it all up. Recovery, the minimal amount that you need to stimulate it, your nervous system, all that. Diet is the same way. Okay. So what is it? What is the minimal amount that I can eat? And what should I be eating? And what can I cut away? And what's going to be effective? Supplements are the same way. It's all a science experiment.
Yep.
Right. And so your happiness is the exact same way. It's like, it's not spirituality. That could be a component of it. And I define spirituality as connecting with something bigger than ourselves. I think that's a major piece of the puzzle for our functioning and our wellness and the way we as a species are programmed. But I just don't think of it like so many people, like you're saying. A lot of guys will look at, well, I don't want to talk about my feelings and I don't want to get into my psyche and I don't want to look in. I don't want to turn inward.
Yes.
I don't want to turn inward. Why? Because you're afraid. Because they are afraid. It is scary to turn inward. So then you start coming up with all these excuses for not turning inward.
Because it's scary. It's super scary.
Scary. It's uncomfortable.
You gotta
scary.
Look at the man in the mirror deeply without any blinders, without no sunglasses, without none of that. And you got to look him directly in the eye. That is super hard because you can't, like, we can all fucking lie to everybody else. But, you know, when you're alone and you're by, it's very hard to lie to yourself. Like, especially when you're really, 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 you know, I mean, we do a decent job of it, but like when you're really, really looking, you know what's what. You know what you are. You know what you're afraid of. You know what fucking makes you tremble and shake, and you know you don't. And it's so much easier to you know come up with intellectual versions of why that's not true.
There's so many. Yeah, like, I mean, think about like there have been times in my life where I'd walk past a mirror and I don't want. I'm like, I'm out of shape. I don't even want to look in that mirror. I don't even want to look in it. I don't want to look in it. I'm not seeing it. You know. And it's the same way with mental and emotional and all of those things. It's like, man, I don't want to, but I do think, you know, when we change the language of it and we understand the science of our psyche and we understand that, like, I don't say I say my ego. I understand that this structure inside of my brain that needs to be reworked is not me. It's my ego. It's my false identity. And so if I can objectify that, then I don't have to take it so personally. I can just say, yeah, it's just my ego. And I got to sit there and really work on this thing and look at it and say, what is it? What is it? You know, what is it because that thing, that false identity, that ego it may fuel, like I said, for some people, it may fuel success as we term it in this current moment in time, you know, but we evolved over millions of years. The context of our current society, the rules, so to speak, are different than they were when we evolved. So what is deemed success now is very different than that.
And, you know, truly, what is the value of any sort of success if it's not accompanied by peace and happiness?
And happiness. Exactly.
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like it may be, you know, a word, success is a word that's generally agreed upon by most of the people on the words and symbols, you know, back to the Zen thing about not having words and symbols. And I think words, symbols, and meaning is such a crazy thing because it's like, yeah, there's the word success. If you look it up in the dictionary, if you look it up on social media, it's going to have a generally agreed upon, you know, set of symbols and meanings. And most of that has to do with financial and, you know, material. But if it's not accompanied by happiness and peace, I'm going peace before happiness. Cause I think I know more what peace is than I know what happiness is. And if it's not accompanied by that, then what the fuck does it, you know, what is it? It's not worth anything.
But I think that's a really good point where you're like, well, peace, I don't know what happiness is, but I know what peace is. I think they're interchangeable. I think
It's the
they're
same
the same
thing.
Yeah. I think happiness is the way I define happiness is the exact same way I define peace. I don't think they're any different. And as a matter of fact, I agree with you. It's just a freedom from is what happiness is. Dude, so I think this is really important in the sense that part of why I always will land on and kind of joke about, like, we're living in a simulation, we're living in an illusion, we're living in a dream, is to try and shock my own psyche into understanding that what you are taking to be like an ironclad truth is not. It's nonsense, right? I was listening to Lex Friedman podcast and he was talking about AI and the evolution of AI. And he asked one of the AI bots to define like humanity and current state of humanity. And it was, humans have taken their selfish desires and coalesced them into a set of false, like illusory sense of rules in which they organize their society. And so you have this idea of money. Money is a complete fabrication. Money is religion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, you know, some people are like, oh, I'm an atheist, or, you know,
it's absolutely made up. It's an absolutely
totally
made up, fabricated concept that is, I read a book about that and it tracks it through history and it's absolutely made up. It's just a societal agreement. That's all it is.
And so I love that, because that's what, if you think about it that way, then you start breaking apart the attachments that your psyche has to, this is the way things are. There is no the way things are. There is no the way things are. That's part of are you going to take the red pill or the blue pill? Are you going to wake up? And part of that awakening that we go through is starting to challenge not only our internal like psyche, but the attachments that we have to, oh, this is nationalism and my country's the best, and this is capitalism or communism or whatever it is, whatever the nonsense is, understanding these are all made up. And if we define peace as freedom, then we have to go through and break apart those like rigid, like belief system, that rigid belief system that we have. And this, till finally we're just floating in the middle of the river, right? In the Tao, and just being like, whatever it is, it is. Okay, it's cool. I don't have to believe this. I don't have to grab this. I could just float. And I think that's kind of like when circling back to this idea of, many of us have this belief that this person is successful, so they must be happy. They've got it all figured out. No, they're born a psychopath. That's why they were able to, they got lucky. They were born into a situation. There's a lot of luck involved, and they just forged ahead before anybody else did. And they just stuck to it. And then all of a sudden, everything turned Microsoft, Bill Gates. That Malcolm Gladwell book, Outliers, talks a lot about it, about luck, how much luck is involved, and
Yeah, well,
just being
it's
in
like
the right place at the right time.
it's you're obsessed for long enough until you get lucky. That's what it is. If you can stay focused and obsessed for long enough, eventually you're going to be at that point on the map that intersects with, these external opportunities that are kind of, passing by. And that's how, people say that shit all the time. It's like, well, you got to be obsessed and over a very long period of time. For most people, I mean, some people get lucky early, some people do, but most don't. Most don't. You don't hear the story of like, the guy slaved for 20 years and then in year 21, but it's like, are you going to do something for 20 years? Are you going to, are you going to put
everybody
that
else
type
is
of time?
telling you? That's what we were talking about earlier. Can you do it, to where every day you just get punched in the face? People tell you no, you just got to, okay, you'll see, but that's the thing.
But it's fucked up though. It's what's crazy. And it's, it's celebrated. And I do think that there is a portion of it that is worthy of praise and is worthy of celebration, like the man in the arena, the gladiator, so on and so forth. I do. But I also, and I'm speaking from personal experience, that obsession and that crazy drive has created massive amount of problems with, massive amount of problems for people that I care about. And you know what I mean? And relationships. And so it's like, yeah, there are some really great things about it, but it ain't all fucking roses, baby. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yes. I think that's kind of the journey that we're on, is coming to grips with that. And I think that's why, and it's a difficult subject to talk about because a lot of it's like the Tao, where it's hard to describe it. It's hard to come to grips with it. It's hard to,
but I think I've really start to think about it too much.
But I think I've really landed on, with my own self, is that no, there is a better way. And that way is through self-mastery. And through self-mastery, the gauge of self-mastery is peace and happy, same thing, interchangeable happiness. And then that fueling, and one final note, one thing I will, and I definitely want to talk about this in future episode. I don't know how much we have talked about it, is that I do think that there is one of the major components of this is being of peace and happiness and being able to do whatever it is that I'm doing and not being a slave to my psyche, is being present.
Yeah. I think that's the whole thing. I think that is
I do too.
With peace and happiness. I think that really, if you really want to find the one word that encapsulates it all, is being present. Because because that's when, if you're present, that to me, I think is what happiness is, because it's you're devoid of the wanting and the desire and the needing to be somewhere else or with someone else or have something else. You're right where you are and you're content and you're good and you're like, okay, this is good. And I don't get there often, but the times in my life that I have, those are the most powerful memories and like moments to where I could come back and say, like, I remember that time and I remember being right where I was and having no need of anything else. And it's like that's it, man. That's it.
Yeah. I think I might have told you this before, but my probably my most psychedelic experience ever was being purple belt, I think Pan Am's in jiu-jitsu. And I was walking out to the mat with my opponent. And I remember just being stopped in my tracks. I kept walking, but looking around and how like everything was so crystalline and perfect. And I was like, this is the most amazing feeling I have ever. And I was so in the moment
That's
I
amazing.
was so in the moment. And I think that was one of my purple belt that when I won, it was, and I won Pan Am's and I was present and
That's
it
probably why you
was,
won.
yeah, because I was just like, I'm here.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean every time you're going to win.
No.
But when I experience those moments, I've won anyways, no matter what the outcome is, no matter what the fruits of the thing are,
100%. 100%. I think that's real. That's real. I mean, even
And
now,
so,
like in training, like I've not, I'm hanging on barely, but I'm not training as much as I'd like to. And if I didn't have my own gym, I probably wouldn't be training at all. But like what's interesting about training right now is I have no expectations of myself. Zero. And so like I'm getting on the mat,
you're free.
I'm sitting down, I'm playing guard, we're bumping up and come get me, bro. Whatever.
Yeah.
Let's just see, you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to win. I'm not like, I know that like I gotta go I can't go at a crazy pace. I'm not like super competitive. And like the past 2 sessions, I've had some of the best sessions I've had in a while because like I have no expectations. I'm completely present. I'm present in that moment, doing that thing. And I'm not asking anything of it. I'm not trying to have it validate me. I'm not trying to, have anybody else in that room be like, oh yeah, Jesse's good at jiu-jitsu, bro. You should give him his brown belt now. You know what I mean? Like I'm not thinking about anything like that.
Yeah. That's amazing. And so that, I think for me, that answers the question, can you, without being born a psychopath and without being all this, can you use the alternate path up the hill? And I think the alternate path up the hill is using the energy of the Tao. And the only way to use the energy of the Tao is when we're completely present. And I do think that will propel us. That's the experiment. That's the science experiment, right?
Well, I'm a fucking psychopath, so I don't know. But I'm participating in the experiment for sure.
Bro, you think I'm not a psychopath?
No, obviously. Obviously. Why?
Come on, man.
We found each other.
Exactly.
We gotta get some regular people on here to see what they think.
I don't think we know any regular people. They would be so afraid. They would be like, who, you want me to do what? So next week we're going to have our first guest and we're going to start rolling out guests. So
hell yeah.
I'm really pumped on that. And so we'll see how psycho other people are. If we're just,
yeah, I'm sure.
If we're alone in this, man, All right, man. What, the only carve out, the thing that, like I said, that I'm finishing this week is that Don't Die. And I'm finishing my damn book that I've been working on for a year and a half. So the Zen protocol will be done. I can taste it.
Can't wait to read it.
Yes. All right, bro. Have a good weekend. This was a good one. You reading anything? You watching anything? You doing?
I ever tell you about this crazy English guy that I follow on? I have to send you him. The English guy on Instagram, this guy, David Diane Fisher. He's like he used to be an actor and I think he writes screenplays. He was a Hollywood guy. And he completely dropped out. And he is doing the same type of stuff that we're talking about, but he spent many years like, in a practice, and he wrote this book called The Map. And I'm listening to the audiobook, and it's all about this. It's all about, trauma and, external validation. But he's like, he's got this English, he's got like this attitude, and he tells people to fuck off, and he's got this English accent, and he's talking about all this shit. And he's somebody that I want to reach out to, because he would be a good guest. I
love it. We'll leave it on this. It's really, Ramana Maharshi was a sage, and I've talked about him before, in India, and he was impeccable. Like someone described him as a white spot on a white canvas. He was perfect. He never had any belongings. He wouldn't allow anybody to give him even anything that other people, he didn't share with everyone else. Yeah. But the there are other people that different people are attracted to, right? So, some people are crazy, like Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, drinking and smoking cigarettes and all that, but was a Zen master. There are plenty of people like that. There was another Zen master who was like that, hung out in brothels and drink sake all day. And,
Yeah.
but the way that I think about that is that when you have an awareness so detached from what your ego is, that you can just watch the ego. Oh, these are the cravings. They don't control me. This is, but I like to smoke a cigarette. I smoke a pipe, blah, blah, whatever it is, you're going to still function. But there are different people, like this English guy. You're like, yeah, this guy figured it out, but he's kind of crazy,
Yeah. Which I think, is and like you said, there are the way things are. It's just, how do you find your way in,
That's right. You have to be this way. You have to be Mother Teresa, who just sacrifices everything. Well, she is an important icon for some people as a path.
Yeah.
Right. That's the path. Okay. That's for you. But there are other people who are like, I am forging ahead, whether it's Jim Carrey or Eckhart Tolle or Ramana Maharshi, whatever it is.
It's all the same. It's just what's your way in.
It's just a different path up the mountain. Everybody's got to take, and your path is going to be completely different than everyone else's,
Hell yeah.
So anyways, next week, guest, let's do it, man.
Yes, sir.